Hello everyone and happy summer. Real quick, the start of this video is going to be for those of you who are subscribed to the channel, but if you don't want to watch this segment and you want to just go ahead and straight to the where I'm going to talk about all the movies, go ahead to this timestamp right here. I promise I won't take long, especially for those of you who want to stick around and hear me talk about my life and how much I would like to rant about it. It's just a little bit of filler before we get into the meat and potatoes of this whole video, but anyways, long time no see. Well, I mean, it has been a little bit since I've done a proper long form video outside of an update, but hey, at least I get to discuss what I watched this spring.
Ish.
No, but these past couple months have been a little weird as I haven't been able to watch a whole lot of things, primarily with me focusing on work and other things in my life, like spending time with family on Mother's Day to watch the Phillies kick the absolute crap out of the Rockies. Sorry, I don't follow baseball, but sorry Rockies, you just really got hammered the last couple of games in that series. And also to just rest my brain from whatever kind of exhaustion I'm feeling at the moment. But that being said, I have no plans to stop the creation of videos here. And more than ever, I'd love to discuss whatever I'd like to do, especially if it's something that I've already mentioned on my introduction video, which if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Watch it. It's right there as my channel trailer. Yeah. That being said, by the time this video is posted, I will already be in Minneapolis once again, because I'm back for another whole week at SGDQ. It starts this Sunday, or tomorrow, considering that I posted this on July 4th, and will be going until the end of the week. Now, if you are there and part of my Discord, feel free to mention me in the general channels or whatnot. But yeah, I figured I'd shout this out considering I have actually been to the event for the last 2 years. Now, exiting this topic and getting back to where we just were, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing videos like this. It means the world to me, and I aspire that someday I'll actually be able to make videos sitting in the comfort of my own home, or in this case, my bedroom at the moment. But until that happens, stick with me and my jank shenanigans. And surely, with enough progress and whatnot, and more importantly, with enough time, I hope that we will make it. Anywho, let's get down to the nitty gritty and talk about some of the movies that I actually got to see this season. Because man, some of these movies I watched, they were quite the trip in their own rights. Kicking things off with the ish part of the spring binge watch. Now, technically, I watched this a month before the season began, but because I didn't make a video for all the stuff I saw during the winter, I'd figured I'd include it here at the beginning, similar to what I did for last spring's binge watch. And that movie in question is The Phantom of the Paradise. I was very fascinated with the concept, and after watching a video essay on the matter and of the BTS behind Carrie's 76 adaptation, I had to put this on my radar. A gothic horror musical with a guy who looks like he has a spaceship for a helmet? I don't know why I thought spaceship, but
oh man! I'm still geeking out about it!
Essentially, the world of the film is based around a society where one man has power in the music business. Well, is it a filthy, wealth-hungry executive? No, but someone who used to be a really good singer that turned themselves into a sensational producer. And our lead character being a musician himself, wanting to bring his vision of a story into a dark but epic cantata. One that's been abused alongside its composer after being dumped by Swan and his legal cronies. But the man known as the Phantom of Swan's music Hollow Paradise has other plans. Someone he finds worthy of playing his arrangements shall be the only one who can perform the cantata, and others who abuse and rip it to shreds shall pay dearly for their lives.
Never sing my music again. Not here, not anywhere. Do you understand? Never again. Anyone else that tries, dies.
After completing my first full watch, I was happy to admit that I really love this movie. I mean, for something that bombed commercially at the box office and gained a cult following like Rocky Horror, it's unreal. I'll always feel a sense of fascination for projects that take the sold their soul to the devil trope, or whichever, and put a unique spin on it. Sinners, of course, being the latest to continue this horror tradition, which I still stand as being my favorite of last year. I should also mention that the opening is narrated by the late Rod Serling. Yes, the very same guy who made The Twilight Zone is the narrator. That's fucking amazing.
Swan. He has no other name. Now he is looking for the new sound of the spheres to inaugurate his own Xanadu, the ultimate rock palace.
You really feel for the guy who becomes the Phantom, and that every time he makes good progress with his cantata, it feels like it's all for naught because the Swan continues to stab him in the back and go with another star set to take Phoenix's place. It's humiliation at its finest, and one that he's stuck living with until Swan is dead. But that part of the film is something I'm not going to spoil because the rest of it is worth watching. even multiple times to see something new. And because of that, I wholeheartedly approve of this rare beast from a fellow NJ native. Alright, so this next one is one of those movies that I picked up on Blu-ray a while back and has been collecting dust on my shelf until quite recently. The other one of the two that I did end up watching was Prisoners of the Ghostland, but my bizarre thoughts on that film will come at a later date should I choose to make a video on it. But back on track here with Skinamarink. Going into this movie, I knew that its core focus was providing interesting analog horror, but not in the way that most people would expect from the genre. Most of the time I stumble onto this content on YouTube, it usually has something like 4 scares and incredibly goofy, loud sounds caked into their runtimes. And yes, while there are a few little scares caked into the runtime, it just only builds up the dark atmosphere even more. And more importantly, does not feel forced one bit. I didn't even expect this was going to be something of a chamber piece until I got a chance to watch this. And I'm glad that I did. But while it's something that not everyone is going to appreciate, I fell in love with the vibe that Skinamarink brought to the table. Picture somebody you know, or maybe even yourself when you were younger, and like the horror of the unknown, and not the actual monsters. That's kind of the vibe I got from the movie, and a little bit more. There were moments where I felt like I was actually there, and made me flashback to when I was younger staring into the TV at 4 a.m. True story on that, by the way, and that was before I even got exposed to creepypastas like Candle Cove. Like the young brother's screams from being injured around cutlery when the dark voices started playing in his brain. That and the times his sister got taken away are one-of-a-kind moments that really got me disturbed. And I really agree with the sentiment of the whole vibe of the film being super lonely. You get to see your parents right before bedtime, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and then now you have to figure out what to do for the rest of your time being alive before you get swallowed up into the darkness. It's not something that I would call a mind-boggling experience, but to those of you, myself included, it was quite unlike what I initially expected it would be. The doors go completely missing, and even calls for help feel completely hopeless. Being in the dark at a very young age and not even being able to escape is such a hellhole. And really, it just solidifies that this is such a brilliantly executed film on theming alone. And I'm very proud to give it the B grade that it absolutely deserves. Alright, so the next one I'm talking about is The Thief and the Cobbler. Now, this is one of those movies that I consider to have spent a lot of time in production hell, and I have been very curious about it for quite a while. So curious that I decided to make a separate video just talking about the different cuts that exist. But for the sake of this portion of the video, I'm just going to stick to what I liked and give you a summarization of the whole film. Essentially, it follows this cobbler named Tak, get it? Thief and the Cobbler, Tak, I'm sorry, who ends up getting entangled in a lot of things, starting with his interaction with the thief. And then soon that we get introduced to the Grand Vizier, Zigzag, played by the late Vincent Price, which I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, it is the late Vincent Price that does play this insane character. Insane as in insanely good.
Great King Nod, have no fear. Zigzag, your Grand Vizier, is here.
Oh, it's you, Zigzag.
Sleep, sleep. They sleep. They're all asleep. I rise above the human heap.
To please King Nod, beloved by all, commence the game. In short, play ball!
Gentlemen, what a delight to meet you all here on such a fine night.
To make a long story short, he is after the 3 golden orbs of protection, and should these orbs end up in his arms or of another person, then the kingdom will fall into disarray by the very threats of the One-Eye Army. And it's within this threat that our boy Tak the Cobbler is the one to save the day, and more importantly, stop the One-Eye Army from causing havoc amongst the kingdom. Now, the thing that fascinated me many years ago when I stumbled across this hidden gem and whatnot was that this had suffered such a production delay of like over 3 decades. Much of which had actually been done independent of the studio system and fully within his own work environment. Not to mention Williams working on other projects alongside this very long production. To the point where even a studio like Warner Brothers decided that it was too much for them to handle because of the production delays, and they decided to cobble up the rights, which ultimately got spread to numerous different outlets. In my video, which I'm going to release very soon, 2 of the 3 releases I'm going to discuss came from the seizure of assets, after of course Williams failed to complete his film yet again. So definitely stay tuned for when I'm going to drop that video, but for right now, I actually thought it was not too bad. There was definitely promise based on the visual sequences I had seen, both incomplete and actually completed, that would have made it a really amazing film had it actually been completed. But that being said, the story though is a little bit basic, but other than that, I really enjoyed it for what it was and what I hope it can end up being with the recent recobble cuts, which is also going to be featured among the other 2 cuts in my next video. So if you want to check that out, just stay tuned for when I will release it.
And now for something completely different.
My official Discord. While it has been sitting around collecting some dust, I figured I'd let you know there's a bunch of stuff on it. Notifications for when I post and go live on my channels, stream schedules and daily questions of the day, and voice and stage channels for gaming sessions and community night efforts. Of course, I can't forget to mention the text channels, including ones for movies and even something randomly chaotic like Danganronpa. Everything will be available on the Swag Cinema server at dsc.gg/swagbay. Once again, dsc.gg/swagbay, and it will also be linked in the description if you're watching on mobile. In regards to if I'll continue Spooktober, I am pleased to say that I will do another wave of Friday and Saturday night spookers. The reactions to watching movies like Long Legs and Sinners in the Discord were pretty wild, and I'm so glad that we got to do it for the first time in years. It will begin on October 2nd and end, of course, on Halloween evening. The lists right now are currently to be determined since I'm recording this before I fly out in the morning, but any suggestions for movies to watch are welcomed in the suggestions channel on my Discord. And last but not least, I like to shout out where I am on my socials. These are the places that I'm pretty active on, so feel free to follow me there and maybe reply to some of the stuff I actually post. I know I have a ton more places that I also have signed up to in the past, which you can find out at swag.moe, but don't expect me to post a lot more than I do on these main ones here. And that's all I got to say about this self-promo segment. Alright, so I contemplated many times about seeing Project Hail Mary, because I was worried that with names like Phil Lord and Chris Miller attached to the project, that it wouldn't turn out great. I mean, their filmography is crazy. From the Cloudy and Spider-Verse films to 21 and 22 Jump Street and its next sequel. I've seen directors that have done well with smaller and larger scale projects and then made other works, only to become big forgettable duds in the process. But thankfully, my fears were pushed into the exhaust engine, but at the cost of watching it on digital instead of theaters. No, but thank you, Hasfar, for setting up a movie night in Discord. I wouldn't have been able to share my thoughts here otherwise, and honestly, I should have went to go see this in IMAX like you did. So I guess it's a win-win in the end, but anyways, let's discuss the movie. For those who aren't in the loop about this magnificent gem, it follows a middle school teacher and his brain's recollection of how he even got to an incredible part of the universe. All while doing what he can to pilot a giant-ass ship and figure out what to do next. But it's during this time in outer space that he finds a little creature who is willing to communicate to the best of his ability, even while destroying the ship's interior to make his way in moving in. But more importantly, learn about life with his new friend, Mr. Ryland Grace, played by the talented Ryan Gosling. I have to say this, if 2022 was the year Top Gun Maverick was the blockbuster of the year, then this movie definitely takes the cake for this year's contender. Had this movie actually released around this time instead of in March, but anyway, everything from visual effects to the acting to the cinematography all work seamlessly and make you feel like you're actually there. It really feels as though I'm actually watching a modern take on something like 2001: A Space Odyssey. But like less abstract than that, and there's actually a lot more good things to come out of it. Also, the fact that this whole movie got transferred into real film to achieve its signature look is actually amazing. I know that with modern tech, it's a lot easier to shoot movies compared to shooting them on film, where you have to make sure that everything is just right. Otherwise, the film negative would just end up looking like shit.
It does look like shit.
But nonetheless, I really appreciate that the filmmakers did their very best to make it feel believable and just make it just damn amazing, especially to look at. It's bright colors and a very, very, very fun story, all wrapped up in such an awesome time capsule. A time capsule that many years down the road, I probably will be happy to come back to. I thought the movie was pretty good overall. Most supernatural horror pieces to me, when I do watch them, can be bland as all hell. Same cheap jump scares, not very likable characters, and sometimes, hot warm take incoming, too much found footage. But similarly with how I felt on Sinners, it genuinely surprised me that it can break the curse and do some rework to fit its perplexed narrative. This follows an author by the name of Om Bauman, who makes a visit to a hotel his parents visit in the Irish forest. But it's while he's there that a strange presence reeks among the locals and hotel staff respectively. An otherworldly witch who cursed the lovely couple floor and for which it is barred from the public. But this doesn't stop Om, portrayed by Adam Scott, to try and investigate this mysterious presence. All while the locals warn of the dangers that come from stepping foot into the suite. There were multiple instances during my afternoon showing of the flick that I was prepared for a jump scare when the shot was set. but in actuality, it was more unsettling with less noise. And for the few times I actually flinched, the film rightfully didn't prepare me for it. And at last, here on my list, and the most recent of the bunch I watched, was Obsession. I remember hearing a lot of buzz about it online, especially pertaining to how such a movie below an $800,000 budget was able to work very well and be genuinely unnerving. Both critically, commercially, and especially through the audience's reactions. Not so much from the supernatural aspects, but really the psychological angle and how everything gets fucked up. It follows this guy named Bear and a person in his friend/work circle group, Nikki, who he tries to get closer to. But because of shit in his past coming back to nail him in the coffin, he fumbles up really bad in his love proposal to her. So the supernatural party trick known as the One Wish Willow becomes the source of all of his problems, as he uses it to make Nikki very attracted to him, romantically and as a batshit insane yandere. You know, the whole, if I can't love you, no one can, and kill everybody in sight? Yeah, that yandere. Another thing I remember hearing from people online is that the whole feel of the film really sat with them for a long time, as in, they had chills or perhaps experienced a bit of paranoia from this. I can confidently say for myself as well that I really felt the strong theming. Not too long after I got out of the theater, my arms and body were shaken out of both fear and excitement. Because it did more than other movies have in the essence that it really put a genuine effect on my physical and mental state. I love when passion projects like Obsession nail this aspect, forcing you to sit through the hell of the relationship and then letting that unnerved feeling linger even longer after you leave is powerful stuff. And more importantly, powerful storytelling. And I'm so happy that this fellow Gen Zer made the best horror movie of the year so far. I look forward to what you and your pals make next, Curry. Though I'm not totally sure if it'll work out with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre project, considering the last one I heard was a pretty big dud. But I hope your next original one is a smashing success, just like Obsession was. And that about covers what I've seen in my recent film log, or binge watch depending on your preference of words. Now, there's not a whole lot of stuff I can see while I'm in the Twin Cities metro area, but I know there will be more stuff that'll be playing toward the end of the month. Such is the case with the upcoming Kristofer Nolan epic, The Odyssey. Of course, May was the unofficial start of awards season as far as just seeing what movies could potentially show up, what with the Cannes Film Festival running at the end of the month. But I know that plenty of Oscar bait will sneak its way into theaters in these next 5 months. You know, war films, well-acted dramas, and of course the extremely unnecessary popcorn flick. Unless, of course, it's a very good one. And of course, as I've gone for the last almost 3 years, my time at local film festivals like Montclair and potentially New York Film Festival 3 weeks earlier. I mean, I do live in close proximity to the city, so I can always get a train ride or Uber my way there. I wonder if Mom Donnie loves New York Film Festival. I mean, probably. But real talk, I want to go to one of these big 5 film festivals so bad and see a bunch of films there. Because some of the stories coming out of them, such as Curry's film Obsession getting picked up by Focus Features, were amazing things to be heard. Someday I'll be able to make a movie on my own and be able to get it up on silver screens, but until that happens, I guess I'll just sit back and just keep treading the wires that I keep treading. Thank you so much again for watching and for liking, sharing, and subscribing. If there's anything you'd like me to cover next, should I make my summer and fall film logs, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. In case you want to see what I did watch last year this time around, go check out my Spring 2025 video right here. If you want to watch my favorites of 2025 video, then you can click right below that. And as a final note, if we make it to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours by the time my birthday hits, then I'll definitely be doing members-only streams and videos in case, let's say, if I will actually do end up making movies. That way, you guys get to see it firsthand before everybody else does and whatnot. I mean, that technically also be the same for my Ko-Fi supporters, so if you also want to support me on Ko-Fi, it's ko-fi.com/swagbay. So please share this video and all my content with everyone you know. And as always, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.